It's subversive. Anything can happen.
It feels like you're watching real people in real situations.
We're going to find the lead's devil.
Everybody is on the edge of their seats.
Things.
I'm good. How are you doing? How's Cannes?
Warm.
Warm and busy now, I imagine.
Warm and busy. Yes.
Yeah. You've not bumped into take that yet. I've just been sent some photographs.
No, I just saw someone
had
posted a picture. Yeah, like damn, what are they doing here?
I think they're making a film about like a biopic or something. I think, yeah.
Really?
A biopic about them, yeah.
So, my first question would be, what was the film that turned you on to found footage movies? You know, what was the one that really kind of left an impression of, on you and made you want to, revisit the genre and obviously in this instance make a documentary about it?
Yeah, well, to be honest, growing up was the Blair Witch Project, obviously, because that was like, a phenomenon in and of itself. So that was a huge early film on me. But to be honest, the one that really made me respect the genre in full was Wreck.
Yeah.
Like what they did with that movie was just phenomenal. And the film that actually kickstarted the whole project was Lake Mungo.
Yes.
The Australian documentary.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a moving film. And it's nicely low key in Chile as well. So I completely understand.
Yeah, I went in blind and it's like so well done. It's like it could be a real documentary. Like this could be actually a story that's happening in Australia.
Phil, just to bump in there, were you not involved in the re-release of that film as well just recently?
I was, mate. Yeah. So
yeah, I thought you were. Yeah.
I was producing the Blu-ray for Second Sight Films, and Sarah Appleton also does bonus content for a bunch of labels here in the UK. And she found out we were releasing it and was like, "Oh my god, I want to make a documentary about found footage films. Let's do it. It'll be perfect for this Blu-ray." And it was like, dude, a feature-length documentary on an entire subgenre is a bit overkill for a Blu-ray extra. Yeah. So yeah, we got a bit bigger, and yeah, from there, the documentary sort of grew.
And obviously, just kind of the whole idea of making this documentary in itself is like it's just laying yourself down this massive gauntlet. But then with COVID kind of tied into that as well, just to create a normal feature film in itself is crazy, but to kind of be able to do these kind of in-your-face documentaries with all these different directors, how did you kind of go about that?
It was a blessing and a curse, because obviously we couldn't travel, which is the curse, but it also meant that a lot of directors were free because they were unable to work as well. So everyone had a lot of free time on their hands. So scheduling interviews with people was easy. It was just a case of social distancing then. So one camera operator, hopefully someone who can do sound and camera at the same time, just to reduce the amount of bodies that are in a space at any given time. And in between lockdowns, we kind of were able to set it all up and get it done. It took, which is quite long for a documentary, I guess, but we started in July and we finished in the February. So it's quite a long production in that sense.
Mm-hmm. It's nice to hear that was. It's nice to hear that was quite easy for you. And you were saying, obviously, Howard, that it must have been quite a big task logistically. But the other thing I wondered in terms of the size of the task that you had was, how did you and Sarah whittle it down? Because it's quite a saturated genre, because it's so cheap to make. There's a lot there. Without sort of looking at like the obvious ones, like Blair Witch, for example, where did you begin? What was it that you had as a criteria to whittle that list down to what ultimately makes it into the documentary?
Yeah, like as you say, it's a vast subgenre. So trying to tackle the films in question was a challenge. So for me, we had the Holy Trinity, which was Cannibal Holocaust, Blair Witch, and Paranormal Activity. So we had to get Ruggiero, Eduardo, and Oren. Like those three were the people we absolutely needed. Without all three of those, there's no documentary. And then from around them, it was picking up films that we thought were interesting and did something new with the subgenre. So looking at stuff like going back to Wreck, one of my favorites, had to get Wreck in there. So getting warm for that. And then also some of the lesser known stuff that we thought was really good as well, like the Afflicted film. So we wanted to get them put on because we think it's a very underrated film. We tried
No,
to
I
get
agree.
director Blake Mungo on board, but he's dropped off the face of the earth. He doesn't do film anymore. He's kind of left the biz.
Yeah.
And then it was dealing with some of the controversial stuff as well, like hate crime and Megan is Missing. So just to show that it wasn't all pink and fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was nice to see you had some talent from sort of our neck of the woods in sort of UK and Ireland with like Ashton Clark and Devil's Doorway, and we had the Borderlands in there as well, which I think is a highly effective movie. Both of them are, but the Borderlands for me in particular is very, very scary. So it was nice to see that, you know, from that enormous pool, that you've picked out some real gems there.
Yeah, thank you. And to us, we want to show just how global the subgenre is. Just to like show, like, it's just not happening in America. I mean, these films are getting produced all around the world, and that was another important factor for us.
Now we live in a world that is found footage.
This kind of disinformation campaign, we were definitely tapping into that stuff when we were coming up with the idea for Blair Witch.
As technology advanced, it became cheaper and more people could make these things.
Talking about it being such a crowded subgenre, not that long ago, it was kind of it was one of those genres where people on Twitter were just kind of, they're up in arms, not another found footage film, no? And then all of a sudden, this kind of love-hate relationship became a love relationship again. For you, having kind of delved into the whole thing again for the documentary, what would you put that to, this kind of new love for the subgenre?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things, like, I've always compared it to the slasher genre. Like, it's like our generation's slasher sort of subgenre. Like in the 80s, there's an oversaturation of slasher films. The public and the critics turned on it. So like at the beginning, Halloween came out, everyone loved them. But by the time you get to the late 80s, everyone's like, oh God, another Freddy movie. Oh. So with us, with the found footage stuff, in the early days, everyone's like, wow, this is amazing. This is crazy. This is great. Even people like George Romero, Brian De Palma were trying to dabble with the genre and stuff. It's like a legitimate little form of making a movie. But then oversaturation kicked in after the wake of Paranormal Activity. And again, it was like, oh, there's one every week. Enough, stop. But then they did stop. And then like 5 years had passed and it was like, remember found footage movies? They weren't so bad. You know, people started to make them again and people were like, yeah, it was okay. It wasn't all bad. And they try to reappraise some of the lesser known films now.
Mm-hmm. Ashley, no question?
Yeah, and obviously the style of filmmaking lends the picture a much greater authenticity. Is that one of the key things that you think audiences are buying into? And do you think, personally, it becomes scarier because it's far more, relatable than something like The Conjuring, for example? Yeah,
for sure. It's always that sense of privacy. You're breaching someone's personal space in these movies. I mean, they're so intimate. I think it's that intimacy that lends it the fear factor. So yeah, just being in someone's house that invasively, like Paranormal Activity, there's something kind of creepy just about being that intimate with these strangers that transcends the horror genre as well. So it's like, it's creepy in and of itself in the voyeuristic sense of the genre, but then you add in the supernatural element, like, your house is haunted. So it's like a double layer of fear.
I think, I don't know if you agree with this as well, it lends a much greater sense of claustrophobia to proceedings as well. So even in a larger setting. So again, we mentioned Blair Witch, where you're sort of stranded in the woods. It still feels very kind of close in. Would you sort of agree with that as well?
Yeah, I think that's just innate in the fear of the woods. Like everyone's scared of getting lost in the woods. It's kind of like the complete opposite of like being trapped in a house with a ghost. It's like, this is so much vast open land that you could literally fall off the face of the earth. And having someone document that is another terrifying prospect.
Howard,
another underestimated movie that you bring in there is Stephen DeGeneres' found footage 3D, which I thought was fantastic. I got it over here at Fant, and he came over here. It's a great movie. But he really brought something special. I mean, they all did, but he really brought kind of some really special kind of stuff that he came up with in the documentary. especially he kind of brought up how it dates back to kind of literature. That was kind of a harbinger to what was going to come with found footage, which I hadn't really thought that until he mentioned it in the documentary. Was that something that came up a lot while you were speaking to the different people? Did they kind of say that they had based themselves more on literature than actual films beforehand?
It was, yeah. So for me, I'd always considered like War of the Worlds to be like the starting point. That was just me, my assumption. But then I just started speaking with more and more people. Everyone was referring back to like Dracula and Frankenstein. I was like, oh yeah, kind of reading someone's journal, like finding someone's journal is like that, like era's version of found footage. Yeah. And so, yeah, to us, it wasn't obvious, but it was speaking to the filmmakers like Stephen, who were absolutely themselves dedicated to the subgenre as well. And I mean, found footage 3D is just like nothing but a huge love letter to the subgenre, like warts and all. It's like it highlights its good points, its bad points, it's what good parody should be. And yeah, so speaking to people like him who have a true passion for the subgenre like ourselves, we did help elevate what we thought we knew. And hopefully when you do see the documentary, it'll elevate your understanding as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Do you think we can expect to see you direct a found footage flick at some point in the future, given your love of it and obviously your extensive knowledge? Bring a little bit of Tarantino-esque borrowing from various movies and pile it all in together?
I do not know. I don't think I'm talented enough, to be honest with you. I think it takes a very, very talented filmmaker to be able to do.
I probably disagree with
something,
that.
Something like new.
Could be a documentary goes obscurely wrong. No, all of a sudden that'll work.
I don't know. I just think it takes like the found footage genre is easy to do. It is in a sense, like stylistically, you just need a camera and some friends. That's it. But you need a fucking good idea. And
yeah, it's been done to death.
There's been so many good ideas done. It's like, how many are left? And that's like when someone like Rob Savage comes along, makes 2 on the head. He's like, oh, you prick. Goddamn. You goddamn mad genius. I hate you. I love you. So yeah, I think there's far more talented people out there who can carry that burden for now.
But having said that, I was looking on IMDb, and you have got a couple of projects, feature films that I don't know if you are working on them, because IMDb is like 2% trustworthy what is on there. But yeah. I presume those are things that you're working on and hope to get made soon, no?
They are, yeah. So that's why I'm here in Cannes as well. Right. So I'm trying to get some new projects off the ground. So hopefully, yes, IMDb might be true soon. And none of them found footage though, unfortunately.
Go on, actually.
I'd had a look at IMDb as well, and it seems that primarily as a director, you're a documentary filmmaker more than a features filmmaker. And I wondered, what is it about this particular medium of film that keeps you coming back time after time? Is it the sheer pool of resources and things that you can pull from, or is it a real basic sort of love of documentaries, and that's the number one thing for you?
Yeah, so you kind of nailed it. It all just comes back to being a film fan first and foremost. Like, I love watching films. I've loved films since I was a child, so getting to hear all these filmmakers talk about how they made films and all that sort of stuff has always fascinated me. And I'm from the era of the DVD era, if you will. So DVD extras were like my film school. So listening to audio commentaries and all those making ofs, it's like, yeah, it's something I miss. So it's something I've wanted to actually try and bring back in a way, which is through my work with labels like Second Sight Film and my own label now, is trying to bring back that sort of, those long lost days of the old Anchor Bay DVDs, when you pick up a DVD and you just be like, that's me gone for the weekend. I'm just gonna be here watching this DVD for the whole weekend.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. They wonderful releases from Anchor Bay. I've got quite a few here now that are very, very dog-eared. So no, I absolutely agree. Although Howard and I are a little bit older, and we weren't of that genre, were we, mate?
No, the VHS with the dodgy trailer at the beginning, yeah, with the voiceover. Yeah. That was about all that came with it.
Lucky you get an extra, like if you go in the bigger VHS, it'd have like a making of at the end of it, Or if you get some big like Braveheart, it'll come with a second tape with like a 30-minute making of. Mind blowing.
We were lucky.
But talking of that era, you got Simon Boswell on to make them to score the documentary. That must have been. I'd really love to know how you worked with Simon on that, because obviously in the feature film you've got all the beats that kind of the typical structure of a film, but for a documentary it works in a completely different way. Did you kind of edit everything together and then he saw the footage and then came up with the music, or did it work the other way around? How did you go about that?
So I had a little bit of a temp score in the edit, and so we just sent him the full film once it was edited with the temp music in, and it was just a case of, Simon, do something like that, please. It's Simon Boswell. He knows what he's doing. I mean, I love this stuff. Like he was doing in Italy, or the Lamberto Bava films and the Argento stuff. So it's like, this guy's fucking awesome. I don't really have to ask this man anything or tell him what to do. He's just gonna know what to do. He's Simon Boswell. So sent him the film, and then he sent back all these cues. He's like, yeah, amazing. Yes. He's like, no notes, 10 out of 10. Thank you, sir.
Brilliant.
As a film fan and a filmmaker, just how important is it to you that platforms like Shudder are available now? Because that they've been wonderful for genre fans, and some of the releases that aren't necessarily as widespread. And films like yourself, it's a brilliant platform, from my point of view, to showcase that. I mean, surely, as I say, that must be something that's really special for you as both filmmaker and fan.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's amazing to have a Netflix of horror just there on your TV or on your phone. Just anywhere you are, you can have it with you, and it's incredible. But yeah, having them support like indie films like this is invaluable. I mean, there's only one Shudder, and yeah, we devised this as a Shudder film. So it's like, if they said no, it's like, where are we going to go next? But luckily they said yes, and they liked it. So yeah, having that sort of luxury, if you will, to think of something like, this would be perfect for Shudder, and make it, send it to them. They like it, and then a couple of months later it's on their platform. That's crazy. I mean, yeah, I think going back, you'd have to go through all the festival circuit. You'd hope for a big sort of Sundance premiere or something. But yeah, luckily now we don't really have to worry about that as much, because that costs a lot of money to do.
I was going to say, yeah, it's not cheap to do the promotional side and sort of push it. So it does make your life a lot easier. And I don't know if you've got anything further to add there, Howard.
Yeah, just one question just to finish off. Yeah, obviously going in there, you must have done all your background work there to kind of figure out which films you were going to include in them, which films you wanted to you wanted to know about. But I imagine that they threw in quite a few unexpected films that you'd never heard of. Was there anything that they came up with that you had to kind of root out yourself? And are they films that you'd recommend people that are going to watch the documentary to root out themselves as well?
Yeah, so Danny Holtzman's Diary. I had no idea what that film was, and multiple filmmakers mentioned it. I was like, what the hell is this? It's not a horror film per se, but yeah, it's an avant-garde 60s movie about Danny Holtzman, who's recording his life via these little diaries, and it gets a bit strange because he gets a bit of an obsession with a fellow student and starts stalking her. And yeah, that was probably the highlight from an unknown film for me. And I would recommend it, especially for your hardened cinephile, because yeah, it's not a mainstream film at all. There's no commercial value in it whatsoever. It's very arty.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time, Phil. I don't want to keep you because I know you're in Cannes with a busy schedule. So thanks very much for your time, and I wish you the best luck with the film tomorrow. And thanks very much for everything. And I will give you a shout when this goes live.
Lovely stuff. Have a good evening, guys.
Yeah, take care of yourself. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right,
guys.
Cheers, guys. Take care then. See you later.
You want some cake too? You're seeing something that you were just not supposed to see.